Shalom Israel, my name is Malak. I want to give a shout out to the 12 tribes that are scattered abroad. Greetings. I want to get right into the scriptures, something that's in my heart. 1 Samuel 17 verse 29 is they're not a cause, meaning a rise to action. I want to get into the story about David versus Goliath. This is something that I preached 20 years ago as the Lord laid it in my heart, and it's still true to this day. As we come to these last days, you can see it jumping off everywhere. All right, so with no further ado, let's get into chapter 17, 1 Samuel. It says, Now the Philistines gathered together their armies to battle, and were gathered together at Shochoh, which belongeth to Judah, and pitched between Shochoh and Hezekiah, and Ephes Damim, and Saul. Let's talk about Saul for a minute. Saul is the first king of Israel. The people wanted their own king, just like the other nations, so God said, all right, gave him Saul from the tribe of Benjamin. So that's where the issue lies, because, God never intended any man to be over Israel. God is their God. That's their people. He rules over them. And later on, the Messiah, the Lord, the Christ, he's going to come and gather the 12 tribes together, and he's going to rule over them. So, Saul, I know we got camps out there, and there's a man ahead over, the camps, and that's all great and dandy. But when they jump off, we'll see what's going to happen. Verse 2, And Saul and the men of Israel gathered together and pitched by the valley of Elah and set the battle in array against the Philistine. That's what's going on right now here in the great USA, Babylon. The battle is getting set in array. Verse 3, And the Philistines stood on a mountain on one side, and Israel stood on a mountain on the other side, and there was a valley between them. Verse 4, And there went out a champion out of the camp of the Philistines named Goliath of Gath, whose height was 6 cubits and a span. So real quick, that word Goliath, if you Google it up, the first thing is going to pop out, Goliath, the biblical account. We all know that. The second definition, when you look it up, it says a person or thing of colossal achievement. Now, we know this country has achieved great and big things. We know who they are, right? So they're mighty in power and all that good stuff, right? But they're about to come down. That's the word. All right. And Gath, that word means wine press. Keep that word in mind, wine press. Verse 5. And he had a helmet of brass upon his head, and he was armed with a coat of mail, and the weight of the coat was 5,000 shekels of brass. Simply, military armor, plenty of might. Who's going to go up against that? And he had greaves of brass upon his legs, and a target of brass between his shoulders. And the staff of his spear was like a weaver's beam, and his spears had weighed 600 shekels of iron, and one bearing his shield went before him. Verse 8, And he stood and cried unto the armies of Israel, and said unto them, Why you come out to set your battle in array? Am I not a Philistine, and ye servants to Saul? Choose you a man for you, and let him come down to me. Here's the challenge. And here's the challenge today to these Israelite camps that are out there. When this Goliath, and we know who we're talking about, steps up and starts to challenge, who's going to step up? That's the question. Who's going to step up and fight this devil? All right, where we at? Verse 9. If he be able to fight with me and to kill me, then we will be your servants. But if I prevail against him and kill him, then shall ye be our servants and serve us. Verse 10, And the Philistines say, I defy the armies of Israel this day. Give me a man that we may fight together. Who's going to step up and fight this big Goliath army that Babylon the Great has put together? Who's going to do that? Verse 11, When Saul and all Israel heard these words of the Philistine, they were dismayed and greatly afraid. They were scared. Verse 12, Now David, all right, David means beloved His father Jesse means wealthy. So wealthy, Jesse the father sent David his beloved son. That's what David means, beloved. Now David was the son that, verse 12. Now David was the son of that Ephrathite of Bethlehem, Judah, whose name was Jesse, and he had 8 sons. And the man went among men for an old man in the days of Saul. Verse 13. And the 3 eldest sons of Jesse went and followed Saul to the battle. And the names of his 3 sons that went to the battle were Eliab. I got to talk about Eliab here. Eliab, was the first son of Jesse. God sent Samuel to, anoint Jesse's son as the new king of Israel. Automatically they thought Eliab was the one because he was tall in stature and good countenance. He looked pretty good, whatever. But God said, nah, I don't look at man the way men look at man. I look deep in the veins of the heart. And that's where the problems start. No heart out here. All right. No heart out here. All right. So where we at? Verse 13, and the 3 other sons of Jesse went and followed Saul to the battle, and the names of his 3 sons that went to the battle were Eliab the firstborn, and next unto him Abinadab, and the third Shammah. Verse 14, and David was the youngest, and the 3 eldest followed Saul. Verse 15, but David went and returned from Saul to feed his father's sheep at Bethlehem. Verse 16, and the Philistine drew near morning and evening, and presented himself 40 days. So here's Gav for 40 days. And we know 40 is the number of testing, the number of trial. For 40 days came morning and evening talking smack to the armies of Israel. All right. So let's move on. Verse 17. And Jesse said unto David his son, take now for thy brethren an ephah of this parched corn and these 10 loaves, and run to the camp to thy brethren. So verse 17 is key here. Jesse the father, which means wealthy, told the son David, which means beloved, to go where your brother is at. So he's letting him know, go. Verse 18, and carry these 10 cheeses unto the captain of their 1,000, and look how thy brethren fare, and take their pledge. Verse 19. Now Saul and they and all the men of Israel were in the valley of Elah, fighting with the Philistines. Verse 20. And David rose up early in the morning and left the sheep with a keeper, and took and went as Jesse had commanded. See, he went as he was commanded. He went as he was commanded. So he was at the right place at the right time. All right. But we'll read into this a little bit, how his brethren saluted him when he got there. Let's read that again. Verse 20. And David rose up early in the morning and left the sheep with a keeper, and took and went as Jesse had commanded him. And he came to the trench as the host was going forth to the fight, and shouted for the battle. The battle's about to jump off. Verse 21, for Israel and the Philistines have put the battle in array, army against army. Verse 22, and David left his carriage in the hand of the keeper of the carriage, and ran into the army, and came and saluted his brethren. Shalom, brethren. Verse 23, and as he talked with them, behold, there came up the champion, the Philistine of Gath, Goliath by name, out of the armies of the Philistine. And David spake according to the same words. Oh, let me read that again. My fault. And as he talked with them, behold, there came up the champion, the Philistine of Gath, Goliath by name, out of the armies of the Philistines, and spake according to the same words. And David heard him. So what are the words that he spoke earlier? Let's go back to verse 10. And the Philistines say, I defy the armies of Israel this day. Give me a man that we may fight together. So David heard those words because he repeated them. Verse 24, and all the men of Israel, when they saw the man, fled from him and were so afraid. You know what I'm saying? When they bust out this martial law, military might, whatever, that's when cats are going to flee. All right? That's when cats are going to flee. And they're going to be so afraid. Verse 25. And the men of Israel said, have ye seen this man that has come up? Man, this man is huge with military might. Surely to defy Israel he has come up, and he shall be that the man who killeth him, the king will enrich him with great riches, and will give him his daughter, and make his father's house free in Israel. Verse 26. And David spake to the man that stood by him, saying, What shall it be done to the man that killeth this Philistine, and taketh away the reproach, the shame of Israel? For who is this uncircumcised Philistine, that he shall defile the armies of the living God? Who is this guy? This guy. Verse 27. And the people answer him after this manner, saying, So shall it be done to the man that killeth him. Verse 28. Here it is. And Eliab, his eldest brother, heard when he spake unto the man, and Eliab's anger was kindled against David, and said, Why comest thou hither? Why are you here? Remember, Jesse the father sent the son David, commanded him. And with whom hast thou left those sheep, those few sheep in the wilderness? Listen to what he says. I know thy pride and the naughtiness of thy heart, for thou art come down that thou mightest see the battle. Now he's trying to check David, trying to talk about his heart. No man knows another man's heart. You know, said, I know thy pride and the naughtiness of your heart. All right. I ain't the most perfect guy in the world, but when it comes to heart, believe me, I got heart. Verse 29, my favorite verse in all the Bible. And David said, What have I now done? Is there not a cause? What have I done now? What I love about David is he wasn't focused about what his brother was really saying. He was more focused about what Goliath was saying. You know, define the armies of the living God. And he said, Is there not a cause? That word cause means a rise to action. You know, you want to set the battle in array? You want to rise up to action? You know, you got to have heart for that. That's where the problems start. No heart. Verse 30. And he turned from him toward another. So he turned away from me. I don't want to listen to what you got to say. He turned from him toward another and spake after the same manner. And the people answered him again after the former manner. Basically, what that means, he turned away from Saul and said the same thing to the other people that was there, the other Israelite. Is there not a cause? Is there not a rise to action? Verse 31. And when the words were heard which David spake, they rehearsed them before Saul, and he sent for him. They heard it, they rehearsed it, meaning they said the same thing David said. Just like if you saw the movie Gladiator, strength and honor, you know, once he said that word, you know, that word went down the line, strength and honor, strength and honor. Same thing here. Once he said, is there not a cause? That word just went abroad. And when it got to Saul, Saul said, yo, bring him over here. Verse 32, and David said to Saul, let no man's heart fail him because of him. Listen to what he said, my people. And David said to Saul, let no man's heart fail him. Ain't no time to faint, yo. You know what I'm saying? Ain't no time to talk about I'm scared. No time for that. Don't bring no scared business here. Thy servant will go and fight with this Philistine. I'll go do this. Verse 33. And Saul said to David, thou art not able to go against the Philistine to fight with him, for thou art but a youth, and he's a man of war from his youth. You can't do this. You're a little guy. And this guy been a soldier, you know what I'm saying, since he was a youth. I guess he didn't listen to what David just said. Let no man's heart fail him. Verse 34. And David said unto Saul, thy servant kept his father's sheep, and there came a lion and a bear and took a lamb out of the flock. Now David is drawn from his life experiences, but he's just a youth. So in his young life, he already experienced all this. Verse 35. And when I went out after him and smote him and delivered it out of his. Let me read that again. And I went out after him and smote him and delivered it out of his mouth. And when he arose against me, I caught him by his beard and smote him and slew him. Verse 36. Thy servant slew both the lion and the bear, and this uncircumcised Philistine shall be as one of them, seeing he have defiled the armies of the living God. He gonna be just like one of them. Verse 37. David said, moreover, the Lord that delivered me out of the paw of the lion and out of the paw of the bear, he will deliver me out of the hand of this Philistine. And Saul said unto David, go, and the Lord be with thee. See, you can't do nothing unless the Lord be with you. Shalom, brethren. All right. Verse 38. And Saul armed David with his armor, and he put a helmet of brass upon his head. Also, he armed him with a coat of mail. Just like man. You know what I'm saying? Try this, try that. You know what I'm saying? None of that works. Unless the Lord be with thee. You know what I'm saying? You ain't going to get the victory. Where we at? Verse 39. And David girded his sword upon his armor, and he essayed to go, for he had not proved it. So meaning he held back from going because he didn't prove all the stuff that Saul was putting on him. You know what I'm saying? This armor and all this stuff. He don't need that. And David said unto Saul, I cannot go with these, for I have not proved them. And David put them off him. Take this off me, kid. You know what I'm saying? Take it off me. Where we at? Verse 40. And he took his staff in his hand and chose him 5 smooth stones. So David, he's going to use what he accustomed to using. 5 smooth stones out of the brook and put them in a shepherd's bag, which he had even in a scrip, and his sling was in his hand. And he drew near to the Philistine. Verse 41. And the Philistine came on and drew near unto David, and the man that bare the shield went before him. And when, verse 42, and when the Philistine looked about and saw David, he disdained him, for he was but a youth and ruddy and out of fair countenance. So Goliath looked at David and said, look, who is it? Who is this guy? You know what I'm saying? You're a little kid. And ruddy, meaning he was red. There's something, he's red, he's white. No, man, he's red. Look at me. I'm ruddy right now. Brownish red. And a fair countenance. Verse 43. And the Philistine said unto David, am I a dog that thou comest to me with staves? And the Philistine cursed David by his God. Mistake. Verse 44. And the Philistine said to David, come to me, and I will give thy flesh unto the fowls of the air and to the beasts of the field. Verse 45. Then said David to the Philistine, thou comest to me with a sword and with a spear and with a shield. So David's basically telling Goliath, you come to me with all this military might. Think about that. You come to me with all this military might. Listen to what David's coming with. Let me read that again. Verse 45. Then David said to the Philistine, thou comest to me with a sword and with a spear and with a shield, but I come to thee in the name of the Lord of hosts, the God of the armies of Israel, whom thou hast defiled. I come to you in the name of the Lord. That's it. That's it. Why? The Father sent the Son. Jesse sent David as he commanded him. And he's coming in the name of the Lord. Unless the Lord be with thee, unless the Lord sent you, you're not going to get the victory over Babylon the Great. Verse 46. This day will the Lord deliver thee into my hand. That day is coming. This day will the Lord deliver thee into my hand, and I will smite thee, and take thy head from thee. See, you got to cut the head off, man. You got to cut the head off, bro. The head is sick. You know what I'm saying? Why I say you got to cut the head off? Because as a man believeth in his heart and confesseth with his mouth, you know, what he think and what he say, you know, goes hand in hand. So you got to cut the head off. They don't believe in the Lord. We know this. This day will the Lord deliver thee into my hand, and I will smite thee and take thy head from thee. And I will give the carcass of the host of the Philistine this day unto the fowls of the air and to the wild beasts of the earth, that all the earth may know that there is a God in Israel. Verse 47. And all this assembly shall know that the Lord saveth not with the sword and spear. You heard that? The Lord saveth not with the Lord and spear. He don't need an army. He just need one. You know, Isaiah chapter 6, verse 48. What he says, I heard the voice of the Lord saying, whom should I send? And who will go for us? Then said I, hear my Lord, send me. God is just looking for one. All right. Verse 47, all this assembly shall know that the Lord saveth not with the sword and spear, for the battle is the Lord's, and he will give you into our hands. Verse 48, and it came to pass when the Philistine arose and came and drew nigh to meet David, that David hasted. Yo, I ain't wasting no time here. And ran toward the army to meet the Philistine. Verse 49, and David put his hand in his bag and took thence a stone and slang it and smote the Philistine in his forehead. You got to go to the dome, man. You got to cut the head off, man. And that the stone sunk into his forehead, and he fell upon his face to the earth. Verse 50. So David prevailed over the Philistine with a sling and with a stone, and smote the Philistine and slew him. But there was no sword in the hand of David. David had no sword, right? So let's see what he did. Verse 51. Therefore David ran and stood upon the Philistine, stood on top of him. He defeated already. And took his sword and drew it out of the sheath thereof and slew him and cut off his head therewith. And when the Philistines saw their champion was dead, they fled. All right. Once we cut the head off, they gonna flee. All right. And the man of Israel and the man, verse 52, and the man of Israel and of Judah arose and shouted and pursued the Philistine until they come to the valley and to the gates of Ekron, and the wounded of the Philistine fell down by the way to Sharim, even unto Gath and unto Ekron. Verse 53. And the children of Israel returned from chasing after the Philistine, and they spoiled their tents. All right. And verse 54. And David took the head of the Philistine and brought it to Jerusalem, but he put his armor in his tent. So David took the spoils. He took the head, brought it back to Jerusalem, showcase it, and he took the armor and put it in the tent. Verse 55. And when Saul saw David go forth against the Philistine, he said unto Abner, the captain of the host, Abner, whose son is this youth? And Abner said, as the soul liveth, O king, I cannot tell. You see what I'm saying? I can't tell. You never know who's God going to send. All right. And the king said, inquire thou whose son the stripling is. Verse 57. And as David returned from the slaughter of the Philistine, Abner took him and brought him before Saul with the head of the Philistine in his hand. Verse 58. And Saul said to him, whose son art thou, thou young man? And David answered, I am the son of thy servant Jesse the Bethlehemite. All right. Jesse means wealthy. David means beloved. Jesse the father sent the son as he commanded him. Unless the Lord send you, you're not going to get the victory, my people. All right. So that's all I have for now. I got more. Actually, this is my first video. I've been watching videos. So, I'll say, well, let me put a video and put what's in my heart. All right. Like I said, that's where the problem starts, no heart. I got heart. Shalom, Israel. Peace be unto you.